Hello everyone, Scar here, and it's time for another video. ICC is about to hit us in Classic WoW, and with it comes a quest chain where you can get a certain very cool legendary axe, Shadowmourne. Best value on Fury Warriors, by the way, I'm just saying. But you also get, as part of the final reward, this BOE mount called the Crimson Deathcharger. In this video series I will be showing you how I made this physical representation, my retail collection mount, as well as talking you through how I made it. It took very long and I have hours and hours of videos, so I've sped it up and cut it together as a quick time lapse. But even with that, one single video would be way too long. So I have made several smaller videos that I will release one by one. As I plan to include LED lights in the parts of the mount that are glowing, feet, eyes and mouth, I will need a base in order to have somewhere to hide the LED's power source and cables. I will be using the base to make room for the legs to glow, as well as give the sculpture somewhere to stand. The base is just a standard pre-made base made out of wood that I bought online. To make sure my project stays in place and does not fall off, I will use 2 screws as part of the construction to keep it all together. Once the screws are tightly secured, I'll start building my container for the LEDs and battery pack. I took inspiration from the interior of the Ice Crown Raid instance and decided to just go bonkers with skulls and bones, as that seems to be the main material of choice for the Lich King's interior designer. In order to not go crazy for making individual skulls, I made a cast from one that I made in order to have a mold to make as big as I want. Having made the basic shape, I start filling out the walls with skulls. The battery packs and switches will go in here. And I have covered the screws in clay so that they will hold on to the rest of the clay and keep it in place on the wood. The aluminium I've used is to bulk out some of the mass, so I do not have to use so much clay. Now I just have to fill out the walls with skulls. But I will show you how I made and used my mole. The mole is also made from the same kind of clay. I have just pressed one of my skulls down into a rectangle. While I was at it, I used the rest of the space on the rectangle to press in 2 holes from a ball stylus so I could make transparent eyes later on. But I will come back to that in my next video. To use the mole, just pressing clay down into it will not be enough in this case, as its shape has a lot of details and the clay will just get stuck and gets deformed when I pull it out. So in order to deal with that, I cover my soft clay in a thin layer of cornstarch. I grab my press mold and press it gently into place. Then I use a ball stylus to press the clay in all directions and into all the nooks and crannies. Because of the cornstarch, it comes out nice and easy without losing its shape. With the skull shape made, it's just a matter of connecting it to the wall however I please. Since I know that there is a big air pocket behind the skulls, I make sure that I poke a hole somewhere so the trapped air would not expand and crack open in the oven. Although this kind of tedious, detailed work takes forever, I personally can just get lost in it. I put on some good metal music, and with that, I can just keep on going. Until my back protests and tells me it's time to stop. I have marked out on some paper how big the hooves will be and how they should be placed, so that I do not fill out the place I need for the feet with something that will block the light that will go underneath. I use some wooden sticks to help hold up the structure, so that I have something to connect the aluminium and clay I will be using to cover the place where the leads will be hiding underneath. After I have covered the whole thing in clay, I have put some pre-baked, very thin, transparent clay slates where the hooves will be later. I intended to have the transparent clay be removable, and I made little bones to hold them in place, but I later scrapped that idea as it was not needed. I've started covering the surface in little skulls, just like the oh so stylish floor inside ICC. having committed to this, I just now have to spend an eternity filling out the rest. The little piece of slice of aluminium foil you see in the middle is where the lid for the batteries are. I've just put aluminium in between so that I can separate it after it's baked. After finishing the floor decorations, I threw it in the oven for a quick bake. And as you can see, you can open up where the battery pack is, so I can change the batteries and turn it off and on. Despite the amount of skulls, no humans or animals have been harmed making this floor decoration. Except me, and my sanity, and a whole lot of poor forgotten coffee cups that turned cold in the process. This little guy didn't seem like he was doing all that well, so I decided to give him a hand. The LEDs I'm using will go in here are called fairy lights. If you're not into soldering or electronics scare the heck out of you, this is a very good option for beginners. They come in a large variety of colors and are already made with a battery pack and switch. The only problem is that the plastic would melt if I put it in the oven, which is what I need to do in order to make the polymer clay cure. So I have to make my sculpture in a way that lets me add the lights after baking. I have made the lower part of the legs and hooves of the Crimson Deathcharger in clay, but of course that will not glow if I put lights in it. And there is white translucent polymer clay that I could have used for this, but I've used it before and I find that this clay is a bit too soft to work with, and the color is a bit too yellowy if it is thick. So I made a mold out of silicone from the two legs, so that I could cast them in epoxy. I won't go over how to make silicone molds in this video. I think I have enough to cover already, but there's plenty of videos out there if you want to make your own. I had to experiment a lot with how much pigment to mix in to get the opacity I wanted. But in the end I got 4 legs that looks the way I want them, with the correct opacity. Now that the base and epoxy legs are pretty much done, I guess I will see you in the next video, part 2, where I can finally get started on the Crimson Deathcharger's body. Don't forget to like and subscribe!